Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
All right, so first of all, everybody, welcome. Thank you for being on time. It literally just clicked to 12 o'clock noon, so there may be other folks who join us as we go. But I'm going to try to go relatively quick through the points of this presentation to set what I think are the basic building blocks of your understanding of sales tax. And I'm not using my fancy microphones and all that. Okay, so we're here to talk about Amazon sales tax, or sales tax as it specifically relates to Amazon sellers and e-commerce in general. But I want to remind you guys there's a difference between those issues. So let's see if I can make this thing go. Let's find out. All right, so for marketplaces, I want to pay close attention to this idea that if you just sell exclusively on marketplaces, there's one set of rules and laws that we need to consider. And if you sell in e-commerce directly, there's an additional set of rules that may apply to you. And this has never been made clear before, and I'm going to try to help articulate a little better. I'm going to give you 3 counterintuitive action steps. And I say counterintuitive because most of the people talking about this subject are selling you sales tax software, some other related service, or they're the state themselves, who all of them have an interest. I have no interest. Listen to me or not, it doesn't matter to me. I got nothing to sell you, so it doesn't matter. I'm a volunteer at the Empowering Nonprofit E-commerce Cooperative. It's member-owned cooperative, and they own my Mondays. So my time is sponsored by them today. I don't get paid for it. I've never been paid and won't be paid by Empowering because I'm a volunteer there. But I want to be clear that that's their time, and you guys are getting it today. All right, so we just talked about this before the start of the call, but in case somebody is coming from outside of or after the time, who does this impact? It impacts everyone who sells in the United States. If you sell anywhere in the United States, particularly in some of the states that are the most aggressive, like California, like Washington, etc., then you got issues, right? And my promise to you is I'm going to show you why California specifically, not to mention the other states, are full of the poop icon. That's right, they're full of crap. And I'll try to keep it family friendly here, but when it comes to enforcement against marketplace sellers and the steps that should be taken to preserve your business, you're getting fed a lot of crap. And I want you guys to just be careful. I want you to know the facts and then make your own decisions, okay? So this is me. So I say 20 to 30 years, but I've been 20 years in e-commerce, specifically 20 years in e-commerce. My first online transaction was in October of 1998. I actually had my first site in 96, so I've been around the block. I've been battling states and sales tax for decades. This is my 30th year in business on my own, and I've done it at a reasonable scale. Now, I hate talking about myself. I don't like it, but I tell you this if you don't know me, so that you can evaluate my own credibility or lack thereof. I've sold over $750 million worth of products through e-commerce over the past 10 or 15 years. And that number goes higher. I haven't updated it in a while. I've owned businesses in Canada, the US, EU, and Asia. And so I get kind of the international footprint to a very reasonable extent. And I've had locations with one of my businesses in 22 different states. So I understand compliance and the burden that these states and cities put on to members or sellers in this case. And fundamentally, I love entrepreneurs. That's why I'm doing this. I don't like bullies. And I think California and I think all of these people are bullying sellers that have less experience and less opportunity to fight back or be informed. And at a certain point, you just kind of give up and you go, all right, it's easier just to give up. And that's still maybe a relevant point that we talk about later. So that's who I am. I do want to let you know, I'm not a tax lawyer. I'm not a CPA. You make your own choices after you get your own expertise built up and your own counsel and so forth. But I'm going to share my honest, true opinions that I not only believe, that I use, but fundamentally, you make your own tax strategy. That's your responsibility. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is the buck stops with you. And I want to be clear that it still stops with you. I'm just sharing for free my concepts and money back guarantee if you don't like it. Okay, so if I tell people, hey, what about California, right? Think about California. You got this beautiful image of, beaches and palm trees, and it's such a lovely place. And you've got the Disneyland and, Hollywood and all these images that have these nice little, positive vibes about California. But I want to let you know that I hate California. Now, I'm not a monster. I don't hate the weather. I enjoy Disneyland as much as anybody else, and experiencing some of the beauty of, all of the beaches and so forth, that's all fine. What I hate about California is not just their overtaxation and overregulation in that state, and I've owned businesses numbers of times in California. They are absolutely almost criminal. In fact, I would assert they are criminal in nature of how they are attacking marketplace sellers. And I'm going to tell you more about why. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure that this, so maybe last week you guys, you got your little email. You got mail, right? The old AOL, a timely reference for you. And then it was from Amazon, your buddies who send you money. So you're excited. You're, hey, what's Amazon talking about today? And then they said, we're turning over all of your information to California, just letting you know, right? And that can absolutely create a level of chaos or annoyance if you're not prepared for it. So what does this mean? We're going to talk about that. For those who didn't get the notice, California essentially said they received a legal and binding notice from the state. This is what Amazon said about the California demand. And so they're going to comply with California, and they're going to turn over all your sales information and whatever tax ID information they have, if any, on you. And that, of course, creates a lot of panic, a lot of pain. But I want to let you know, other states, they've already turned over your information in other states. So here's action step number one, and it's an easy one. Relax, okay? Everybody is really inclined to panic when they get these things because they don't know what it means. First of all, in the past, Amazon used to fight these types of requests from states, including going to court, including being in having a court order and then not responding to that court order, basically treating the court order as if it didn't exist. And that happened in Massachusetts. But ultimately, they've now switched their policy from protecting sellers to cooperating with the states to turn over your information. So states like Massachusetts and maybe South Carolina and some others already have your information. And now California is going to get it too. And this will create additional notifications from California to you, or not California, but from Amazon to you, saying, we're going to give your information over. And again, part of this is just to make you feel scared or make you freak out. Because if they give your sales history, the next logical step is, what are they going to do with it? Are they coming for me? And so in addition to just saying, take a chill pill and relax, I want to let you know the cat's already out of the bag. California has already been monitoring shipping into the state, and they particularly, in my opinion, they're taking locations that are owned by Amazon, and they're looking for any inbound shipping manifests, and they're proactively sending collection notices or inquiries to sellers. That they get your information, they know you ship to Amazon, and then they assert that you owe taxes. And then they try to get you to fill out information, and we'll talk more about that. I dislike fear mongers, the people out there who are just running around going, you better hurry up and you better pay, you better get registered, because each one of your situations is different. You don't have the opportunity to have somebody like me or anybody else just say, here's exactly what you should do for your exact situation. I'm going to give you some framework, and I'm going to give you some broader context to tell you how I deal with it, and then you can apply it as it mandates. But everybody is different. And my question to you is, what if everything you've heard up to now from TaxJar and Avalara and all these guys selling product, particularly from the states themselves, what if that's wrong, right? And so here's the second step, because we're just going to dive right into it, because relaxing's easy. It's easier said than done, actually. Of all of those I just told you to just relax. Did that solve it? Because we can end it right now. Assuming it hasn't quite solved it, I want to tell you actually step 2, and this is very, very important. I want you to get the facts so you can make your true evaluation yourself. And the old show used to say, just the facts, ma'am. Another timely, I think that's a 60s reference from the TV show Police Squad. I just want you to focus on the facts. Don't focus on what I say unless it's a proven fact. Don't focus on what TaxJar or anybody else says unless it's a proven fact. And all the noise that exists in this ecosystem around sales tax is to your detriment. It doesn't help you, it hurts you. And then fundamentally, context is king, because things keep changing, right? You've heard about the Quill versus North Dakota Nexus situation. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Well, that change that occurred with the Wayfair decision means what we do from that point forward may or may not be different, because context matters. And then fundamentally, what does the law actually say? That's the question. What does it say? And California doesn't really even know what California's law says. So let's talk about this old concept of nexus. So nexus, prior to roughly June or July of this year, if you said, what is nexus? Do you have nexus? The question was, do you have a physical presence in the state? And it's actually defined as you see there on the screen. It says a sufficient physical presence, which is a legal term that refers to the requirement for companies doing business to collect and pay sales tax.
Dave,
Now,
we've got a question from Gary.
Oh, okay, hang on. Okay, go ahead, Melissa. I can't see the questions.
He raised his hand. So Gary, do you want to type in the chat what your question is for Steve?
Yeah, get that question, and I'll keep going on that. So the reality is, before that decision by the Supreme Court in June or July, where they took a look at the 1992 Quill versus North Dakota decision, under what's now called the Wayfair decision, they changed the requirement from physical presence, which attorneys call it a bright white line. It used to be a bright white line. Either you have sufficient physical presence or you don't. And the Wayfair decision says that's no longer relevant. It doesn't matter anymore. They dismissed that as a requirement. And they didn't dismiss it entirely. And this is a big deal. A lot of people read, oh, Wayfair changed the decision. But if you read the actual decision, it doesn't mean they changed it for everybody. What it means is Wayfair, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, can't use physical presence as an excuse, or lack of physical presence. So I'll get to that question here in a second, Melissa. But if a state like South Dakota says, hey, you are a multi-billion-dollar company, you're selling stuff into my state, I think you should have to collect taxes. And the court essentially said, you know what, a multi-billion-dollar company, you should be able to collect and manage that tax, sales tax collection and remittance on behalf of customers without a problem. And you can't argue that your lack of physical presence is the deciding factor anymore. It did not change how marketplace sellers operate. Not just in my opinion, but in the opinion of experts as well. And we'll get into that here in a minute. So I want to tell you that although that changed, the court said for multi-billion-dollar companies, this is a big change. And they even generally agreed with the assertion from South Dakota that it is, South Dakota essentially said if you make $100,000 worth of sales or 200 transactions, then you have sufficient nexus. But all of us know 200 sales on Amazon, just average a $25 sale. this is, $5,000 maybe. The sales tax owed on $5,000 might be $350. Depends on the sales tax rate. If it's 10% on 5,000, it'd be 500. If it's 7%, maybe 350. We have to go and get registered with the state and pay hundreds, if not thousands, over the course of a year to comply with all these states for that kind of small amount of money. So the court specifically said in the decision, you can read it yourself in the Wayfair decision, that they are not saying that this is acceptable for small companies, and they welcome the case to be brought that small companies, that this is two owners for them. And I know that TaxJar wants to tell you it's simple, and the reality is there's a lot more to it, because the states are not going to stop at sales tax. They're going to get into income tax. They're going to get into all kinds of other taxes you may have never heard of. In some states, there are asset taxes. So if you are registered in a certain state in a certain city, well, there's a county that wants you to pay on how much asset you have in that county. So if you have inventory in there, you may be paying asset taxes. It could go on and on and on. And there's a lot to it. There's over 10,000 jurisdictions of sales tax in the United States. It's a problem. My point is, if you sell just straight e-commerce on your own website, some of this is going to affect you. That new decision will affect you. If you're a pure e-commerce marketplace seller, just selling through marketplaces, it may not impact you the way you think. Dragnet. Oh, nerds. Thank you, Gary. I love a good pop culture reference change. It was not Police Squad, it was Dragnet. Just the facts, ma'am. Very good job. Okay, so here's the actual law that I want you guys to concentrate on that is more important than the Wayfair decision. It's called Pike versus Bruce Church, Inc. And it created a concept called pike balancing. And I'm breaking this down for you as a non-attorney, but essentially the company being sued was a cantaloupe packer. And they grew their cantaloupes in Arizona, and they ran them just across the border to California to get packed. Now, Arizona said, no, you can't put Arizona on there if you don't pack it in Arizona. And for some reason, people want Arizona, grown in Arizona labels or whatever. What the lawsuit basically said is, why should we have to pay to build a packing facility in Arizona, $200,000, just for this very simple notion of using this? Is there another way that they could accomplish their goal? And fundamentally, that's the point, is pike balancing is saying, can the state accomplish their goal, in that case of getting revenue or getting whatever they wanted from the company, without putting companies through too rigorous or onerous burdens? And I know this may sound dry and stupid, but your business being forced to comply, many of you are international or from out of California. If you're outside of those states, is it really reasonable for them to force 2 million small businesses to get compliant on Amazon when all they have to do is get Amazon to collect and pay it? That's what's called pike balancing. And I'm going to come back to that here in a minute, by the way. Chat says something I'm just reading. No matter how they say it's streamlined, by the way, I see your comments, Chad. I generally agree. No matter what a state says about them streamlining stuff, it is never going to be as easy as they say it is.
Let's pause here for a moment and take a quick sponsor break.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others. Learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. Hey, giddy up.
So my fundamental point here is marketplace sellers are different. If you're just selling on the marketplace, I want you to pay particular attention. If this new concept under the Wayfair ruling brought this idea of financial nexus, if you sell a certain amount in a certain state directly, not through a marketplace, but directly, you may have more to deal with. And that's a separate issue that still needs to be argued, whether or not it's fair for small businesses to comply. As a reference, one of the U.S. Congress people brought forward is trying to bring forward a federal law that says anybody who's doing less than 10 million shouldn't have to have this applied to them. So the whole point is you need to pay close attention to it to understand the Wayfair ruling, but it doesn't necessarily apply to billion or sub-billion-dollar businesses. Specifically, the court said small businesses may have some alternative. So if you've never seen this before, I want to call it to your attention very carefully. And Paul Raffleson, who is the volunteer founder of Online Merchants Guild, talks about this a lot. And this is one of the most important things that you can read. And normally I don't read slides, but I'm going to read this one to you. So this is Tax Regulation 1569. A person who has possession of property owned by another and also has the power to cause title to that property to be transferred to a third person without any further action on the part of its owner, and who exercises such power, is a retailer when the party to whom the title is transferred is a consumer. Tax applies to his gross receipts from such sale. This is California's own regulation, basically saying, without a doubt, any sale on the marketplace is Amazon's responsibility, not ours. Okay, so just take a look at that, and there is no argument that California can make or Amazon can make to say that Amazon is not the retailer of record. For those, you don't have to get too into the weeds about title and transfer of title, but essentially, Amazon sold it to the customer and they paid you your cut of the action after all of their expenses. And that regulation specifically shows that a marketplace seller is not the retailer. Amazon is the retailer. And I can tell you this is a very big deal. So we're going to talk more about the Online Merchants Guild and Paul Raffleson as we go here. But I want to just help frame up this issue because a lot of people don't understand what we're talking about here from a profit perspective. Now, you guys can agree or disagree with my numbers, but I think I've taken some general median and average numbers here. If the average sale is $25, Amazon's going to collect around 33% of that for their commission plus FBA. Now, I could show you, some sellers that are paying 60% of their sale based on the size of their item, their FBA fees, but I think this is a reasonable number. You can agree or disagree and do your own math. The cost of goods sold, let's say you're taking your cost, landed cost of $5 and you're multiplying that by 5 to get your sale price. And then what is your marketing cost? Maybe this is just Amazon, another $5. So you're making $6.75 per sale in profit. And I'm not talking about lightning deals. I'm not talking about, free giveaways or any of the other stuff that you do. This is just kind of a very basic view of it. And I'm going to take you now into what's the potential impact of all these states deciding they're going to come after you for taxes. So if you've just been in business a year, you can go to 2018, 1 year. If you average 50 grand a month, you're probably going to owe about $42,000 in taxes just for that year. If you go back to 2017, 16, 2015, you're going to have taxes. You're going to have what do they call those? Penalties and interest and other types of compliance things. So we're doubling what the actual rate would be. But if you go back to 2015, they will come after you for all of the history. And by the way, states can go back up to 6 years. 6 years. So just understand that when they say, hey, come and get registered, they're saying it almost like to trick you into registering. And then they go, oh, by the way, we need to see your last 6 years worth of records. And we want our money there too. And they'll just be relentless. So if you were, in business from 2015 to 2018, I'm rounding to the end of the year, by the way, of 2018, that's $294,000 of potential taxes or a potential impact to you. Now, you never collected the taxes. You never put that onto your sale. So this is not something that you anticipated. And if you're a 100K seller and you have that length of time, this is 100K in monthly revenue, you would need about $588,000. And if you're a larger seller during that time, you may owe close to $2.9 million. So that's a lot of money. But it's even worse than that because here's how many sales it takes if you make $675 per sale in profit. If your monthly revenue is $50,000 and you have that full, current plus 3 years of impact, you need to make 43,000 sales to make up that difference. Your next 43,555 sales, you're working for the man. Essentially, you're a slave. And obviously, it's worth, if you're a 100K seller, that's 87,000 of your next sales. All of the money goes to them. By the way, in that profit, that didn't include any overhead, any wages, anything else required to operate your business. So if you can't afford that hit and this number of sales being deleted, you need to pay close attention. Now, again, you can change your own math and do your own math, but this is how I look at it. How many sales does it take for you to get whatever they want out of you? It's not just $588,000. It's 87,000 sales. How long does it take you to make 87,000 sales to make up that money? So this is a big deal. And this doesn't even go into the forward cost of compliance. It's a big deal. So here's some questions you need to ask yourselves. This is part of action step 2. I know it's much more complex than action step 1. The first question is, should you register in a state? Any state, whether it's California or otherwise. Number 1, a piece of advice there is you don't take that advice from the state itself, because they have absolutely different interests than you do. Number 2, it matters whether you're exclusively selling on marketplaces or you're also selling in your own websites. If you're selling on Shopify, you have other sales channels that are direct to consumer, those are separate decisions that you need to kind of work through. So that's part of this, do you sell exclusively? What's your past liability? Just calculate it up. See what it is. Where are your entities that are registered? Where are they registered? What city, country, state? You need to know these types of things. And again, if you've sold anything in the past, which states was it sold in? You need to know all of your different entities. You need to know who owns the intellectual property. And apparently, definitely want you to know if you've sold anything in the past, because I put that down twice. And fundamentally, where your entities are registered is probably your highest tax nexus versus other states. And then this is the biggest point, is how much anxiety can you stand? So as much as I'm telling you that California's own law says that Amazon's a retailer, California is still sending you love notes saying, pay us money, give us money. So how do we reconcile that? And some of that is just fighting through the anxiety they put you through. And if you can't stomach it, maybe it is easier for you to just register, and there's a path for that. But here's what I want to warn you about. Just because you register for sales tax collection and remittance, we don't actually even pay that money, right? We collect it from the customer and we remit it to the state. There's very, very small amount of cost that goes with this. If you pay Amazon or you pay TaxJar, you pay these small entities, that part of it is not the issue that I'm so concerned about. In fact, if they made it easy to do that, it would be much easier to comply with. I'm concerned about that slippery slope you see. People will start to ask questions, and I'm talking about government people. I'll give you a great example. In Arizona, if you registered, at one point, cities started sending out little notes and go, hey, good news, you sold something in Tempe, Arizona, and here's a $50 registration fee for selling something in the state of Tempe. Now, my friend who told me this story, she's like, so I sent him, I called him, or I sent him a piece of mail, whatever it was, and I said, hey, I sold a $15 spatula. I'm not paying a $50 registration fee. That doesn't make sense. And they're like, oh yeah, we understand your concern. Send the $50, please. They are binary. They're like, you registered for the state. Now you need to register for the city. Send us our $50. So imagine if those 10,000 individual jurisdictions decide that you should send some kind of registration fee in there. Not just the fee itself, it's applying for all the forms and all those registrations. I think the states themselves are they get you against the ropes and they just start pounding on you.
Pause just 1 second. Your audio has gone a little bit funky here.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can turn off some things here.
Yeah, that's much better. Is that
Okay.
better, everyone? Can you hear Steve better? Say something, Steve.
Okay, I can. I see some of these are saying it's better. I don't know what happened. I only have 1 gigabit internet speed here, so my apologies. So let me just kind of repeat a little bit here. Hopefully, it's not too redundant for you guys. Thanks everybody for the communication, by the way. I'm worried about the slippery slope, not the collection and remittance of sales tax, because we don't pay that. The consumer pays that. I'm worried about the paperwork. I'm worried about the cities, the counties, the parishes, the hollows that start to chase you down for money. And I'm also worried about the states charging you income tax, because the next thing that will happen is California go, great, now that we've beaten you down for all the sales tax, current and up to 6 years worth, we need your income tax. And this is way more complex than sales tax. And the cost for compliance, you know, a good CPA is going to charge you between $500 and maybe $1,000 per state that they have to go through and allocate income tax on. Now, here's the real bitter part of it. First of all, you have to allocate by every state how income tax works. So if you are earning income in California, you would pay the California income tax only on that income. Now, let's just say you're in another state, say Oregon, and you're already paying Oregon income tax. Now, what their states are essentially asking us to do is do a bunch of paperwork to allocate some amount to Oregon and some amount to California, and potentially, you know, 30 or 40 other states who have income tax as well. That's the concern I have. This will be death by 1,000 cuts, and people don't fully understand or appreciate that. I do, because I've run business in physical locations, one business with 22 states, and we had a full-time team to keep up with compliance. If you don't have a full-time team, it's going to be a little harder for you. So I want you to understand, it's not just sales tax, it's registration, it's also income tax and other things that we have yet to see, because the states have this great option. Anybody who's out of their state who has no vote to tell them to stop doing stuff, we have no influence on them. Therefore, they can do whatever they want to us, and there's nothing we can ever do about it in that context. So this is a big fat deal, and it's the slippery slope that I'm worried about. All right, so here's action step 3, and yes, I quite agree with some of your comments there. Let's see, Jat had something I want to just go before I forget. Jat's talking about in the EU it's done differently. I agree with that. We do not own the customers. There's a bunch of things that I'm going to give you guys as a tip to check out here in a minute that will help you complete your education. So action step 3, if you get a letter or a nastogram or even a call from a state, do not respond to them. I will not respond to a state. If you feel absolutely compelled to respond, get expert counsel. Now, I just can't stress this enough. You know, so many people say, oh, my sister, her hairdresser has a cousin whose brother graduated from law school, and so I had them take a look, and they said, that in fact I should pay, or yeah, they give you some advice. And my point is, it is not, absolutely not an expert. I want you to have a sales tax expert. And I'm going to talk more about that. And Christian asked a good question. I'll come back to you here in a minute on some of these questions. So my number one point here, I'm trying to get across to you. If you hire, Slappy the cross-eyed clown to be your attorney at law, you're not going to have the best sales tax counsel. And by the way, his cousin, Skippy the talking mime, is also not qualified to be your CPA and your financial advisor. If you don't have specialists who get e-commerce and get Amazon Marketplace sales, you're killing yourself. And I don't know if you're doing it. And again, I'm not accusing any of you individually, but the reason why people do things is that it's convenient, or they knew somebody who knew somebody. And that's not where your best experts come from. Your experts come from people who have experience. And that's the only kind of experts I'll use. So I'm going to give you, here's some of these steps to pay close attention to, and then I'm going to get into your questions. And I have one other actually bonus link for you guys that I'm just going to tell you. I don't have it in the presentation. So first, I want to make sure you specifically get expert counsel from a sales tax expert about your past web or marketplace transactions. Understand what the states say your liability is. Whether or not we agree with them is a whole separate thing. Just quantify how the states see it and decide how much energy you should put into this. Also, figure out what your current strategy is and the go forward strategy tied to that, right? Are you making any exposure? I'm going to give you some little, I would say, advanced tips here in a second on this. What are asset protection steps that you can take? Now, I want to tell you guys explicitly that I, again, am not your attorney. I'm not doing anything. I'm not telling you anything that I wouldn't do myself. But one thing I would tell you is if you have a business that's been doing business 5 years on Amazon and you do decide to register, me personally, I wouldn't register that company because that's the past, not the future. All these changes, all these laws that are coming down, the change in Wayfair, all this confusion, even if we don't think it applies yet, I would make a new company. And if I'm going to register, I would take that company and go forward. It's not a perfect solution, but I think it puts a firewall between the past and the present. And there are attorneys who can help you with this stuff, by the way. This is part of that asset protection strategy where we can understand that, you know, just because Amazon and the state of California have decided that you're the bad guy doesn't make it right. And by the way, I won't get into full politics of it, but Amazon has been directly complicit with California trying to beat down sellers in ways that make my stomach turn, honestly. I love Amazon in many, many ways, but I hold their feet to the fire when they're in the wrong. And they, in this case, are quite in the wrong. So those are 3 action steps that you can take today. The fourth is fight the power. So the Online Merchants Guild is a nonprofit volunteer place that basically they have a lawsuit pending right now. I'm going to talk more about that here. Well, I'm just going to do it now. So there's a lawsuit that the Online Merchants Guild is sponsoring that is a federal injunction today that they're working on and want to release very, very soon. And you, right now, can go help with that fight if you choose to fight the power. I have no affiliate, I have no association other than I'm a supporter and a believer in the cause. And this case is to file a federal injunction to stop the states from interfering with interstate commerce and to expose the states under the pike balancing that we talked about earlier, to illustrate that the states can have everything they want. If they want the sales tax, they can collect it instantly from Amazon, as many states are now doing. But here's the thing, guys. I want you to fight the power because this is just the beginning. Anybody who's in the know understands that Washington, some months ago, started collecting sales tax or forced the platforms to collect sales tax, right? Let me know if you understand that and you agree that that's happening. Just want to make sure my audio is good. Okay, Sarah's aware. Yeah, Andrea, Christian. Okay, so now tell me. This is the part that may blow your mind. Tell me if you think that you still have to file a Washington sales tax return. Give me a yes on the file, or yes file. Yes, you do. Yeah, so you guys already know. Now, Sarah and Ari, yeah. So you still have to file a Washington state sales tax according to the state of Washington, and you deduct the amount that's credited from Amazon collecting. But they want you to pay business and occupation tax for business that does not occupy Washington. And again, Michael, you have a little unique situation. I won't get into too much, but part of it's based on your location. And so the collection of the tax is less of a problem. But now, why are you responsible to fill out a B&O tax report for the state of Washington when Amazon's doing all the work? You're still not even the retailer, right? So my point is to fight the power, help with this injunction with the Online Merchants Guild right now. That's going to get filed. There will be subsequent lawsuits against states like California and others who are taking these aggressive tactics. Individually, if 100 of us will put in $1,000 we'll raise a lot of money. That's $100,000 right off the bat. If 100 of us will put in $2,000, that's $200,000 to go fight these guys. What if I do know a little bit about that information, Andrea, but it's up to them to disclose. So I don't want to share too much on this. But I really want you guys to take a look and join the fight. Individually, we can't do it. You, me, any of us individually can't fight states effectively. But I can guarantee it, together we can definitely beat the crap out of them. Number 5 here, if you are facing state beatdowns yourself, if the states are on you and you don't know what to do, they're asking you to fill out things, they're calling you, they're harassing you. And by the way, we have incredible stories of them threatening jail time, which is absolutely untrue, making all kinds of threats. And one of the collectors, by the way, 6 months ago, they were a travel agent. They don't have no idea what the laws are. And one of the requirements a state has is they have to prove to you why you owe the taxes. Not just you filling on a piece of paper and volunteering to pay taxes. That's ultimately what those pieces of paper say, is they make you fill on enough stuff and then they go, yep, you owe taxes, please start sending them. My advice, don't fill those things out. And if you really are facing the beatdown, go talk to Raffleson, rafflesonlaw.com. Paul is a brilliant, brilliant guy. We're lucky he will talk to us, frankly, because he used to be sales tax counsel for a little company called Microsoft. Okay, you may have heard of it. He was also sales tax counsel for Walmart, right? And he went to the big leagues and was sales tax counsel for GE. This is the guy we can have helping us. Now, he is definitely an awesomer. You're right, Jet. He's not the lawyer who's at Online Merchants Guild running the actual cases. He, as a volunteer, is helping oversee those cases and has individual sales tax counsel and expert counsel. So having that guy on our side, he is a hero, and the fact that he's willing to help us is extraordinary. And again, I have no affiliation. I have no financial interest. I get nothing from any of this except doing the right thing makes me feel good. Oh, yeah. Now, if you want to get more information, go to awesomers.com/3, and you can watch an hour and a half of Paul and I talking about facts about sales tax and real stories and situations that may be reminiscent to you. Also, awesomers.com/28. I did another hour-ish with Jeremy Kovacs about how do you get your financial house in order. This is getting your books together, getting them, all that Amazon stuff coming in. And if you want to pay tax, if you're already registered or maybe you're ready to start registering, how do you work with his company and other companies that he can interface with to manage that whole process for you, to take it all away? And if you go to empowery.com/contact, Empowery will refer some of those resources to you. There's no cost for those referrals. We're just here to help. It's a really important thing that I want you guys to do. So I want to summarize. If you have states that you have sold any amount of business with, you really need to take a look and do your past analysis, your future strategy, which again, hint, maybe that's a new company. Maybe that company, if you really are forced to register based on the current laws, that company going forward gets compliant, but be very careful about that past. And then fundamentally figuring out who should be on your team from a legal standpoint. So Paul's firm can actually represent you in your own individual case, look at your own individual situation, and go and argue with California or Washington or whoever. And whether or not you need that, I will just tell you, if you are concerned about sales taxes, stop getting information and advice from Facebook and the guys who want to sell you stuff. Get it from somebody who has a fiduciary responsibility to tell you the truth and who is world-class. All right, so I'm about to questions. Let's find out here. Okay, so I'm going to come to questions now. I know it is scary, but it is really, really important. Thank you for that comment, Gary. All right, Melissa, tell me what questions we have in case I've got something already.
Okay, so we had a raised hand from Richard Varner. I can allow him to talk. Do you want to try and do it that way? Because I don't know if he is able to type.
Well, Richard, try to type first, just so we try to keep a tight lid on this thing.
And then in the meantime, I do have that question from Elena. That's the only one that's come through here.
All right, we're going to keep this to sales tax. If we have sales tax related stuff, let's do that. Anything related to non-sales tax, let's go to awesomers.com or Awesomers Facebook page.
Okay, so it sounds like Diego has 2 questions and Christian Morgan has one here.
Okay, so I'll start with Christian. I see that one. Do you have any insight into why Amazon does not volunteer to act as a merchant of record? So it's interesting, Christian. I also asked that question to Paul Raffleson in the awesomers.com/3 podcast. And you can go watch that. And actually, we have a video version of that as well, I think, on the page or on YouTube. And essentially, we think it's because he thinks it's because of they want a lower price than the competition. I think it's partly also related to product liability. Amazon is trying to separate themselves from third-party product liability, even though they probably inherently still have it. But fundamentally, because Bezos made low prices part of his thing, anything that he can do to have low prices is part of their objective. Amazon should do the right thing and just take this whole argument off the table. And I'm not sure that they've done a full evaluation and realized that this could put, of those 2 million sellers on Amazon, if states really do get in the business, it could take 75% of them, 80% of them away instantly. So I don't know for sure, Christian. I think that Amazon doesn't fully understand or appreciate it, at least from the seller experience people that I talk to, and from those that are setting the policy. I will tell you this, they have signed agreements with some states like California that say the state won't attack California, and it's all because of HQ2 and all the jobs and warehouses Amazon puts in. So Amazon has the lobbying and leverage that we don't have, and they get special deals that we can't get.
If anybody knows anything about capitalism, they know it takes money to make things go. This podcast is no exception, so we're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back.
Empowery. The name says it all. Connecting e-commerce entrepreneurs with great people, ideas, systems, and the services needed to stay business dynamic and to grow. Empowery is a network, a cooperative venture of tools and resources to make you better at what you do, because we love what you do. We are you. Visit empowery.com to learn more.
Yeah. All right, so I see some more questions coming in. Let's see. Okay, Diego says, why did you say Shopify would be different? So Shopify, although it's a platform under some of the situations like Washington collecting sales tax and so forth, most of the states and most of us agree that Shopify, you are the seller of record. You are transferring title from the customer or from you to the customer. And that means you are the retailer, and that puts the Wayfair decision into play if you are if you're selling on your own direct channels versus just a pure marketplace like Amazon. I hope that answers that question. What if we use drop shipping but not FBA? Good question. I don't know the answer to that from a pure legal basis, but I would still say that if it's sold on Amazon and Amazon is collecting the money, I'll have to defer that to the lawyers, Diego. I don't know for sure, because it's all about who causes title to transfer. Amazon may still be on the hook for that, but the fact that you're shipping it in, I just don't know the answer if that falls under the Wayfair piece. All right, Lee asks, so are you recommending to completely ignore any requests from states or definitely respond to them and make sure so Lee, I would say let your counsel tell you whether you should respond or not. I personally ignore them because it's like a funnel, everybody. They're sending out a marketing funnel. They send all these emails out, and whoever responds and starts talking to them, they move down the funnel until they get the conversion of paying sales tax. So this is why you should ignore them. Now, when they start calling you and it really becomes anxiety, that's when you want to ask your lawyer, should I respond, and if so, how? But remember what I said earlier. The state has an obligation to tell you while you owe the tax, not the other way around. And Paul actually has written a very nice letter. Here's a bonus link for you guys. I want you guys to write down this link. Melissa, you can double check that this is working. But I'm making a checklist to help you and provide additional information. Try empowery.com, awesomers.com/tax. I'm doing this for my head. awesomers.com/tax. Melissa, does that come up to a page? Okay, so on that page, there is additional information, including the letter that Paul wrote to California showing them how full of crap they are. And, you know, if you want to respond to the state with anything, send them that letter. And don't sign anything. Don't put your own information. Just go, you know, here you go, state, if you really feel like responding. And it demonstrates why you are not the retailer of record. Okay, Rick asked, he says, hey, I'm in tax-free New Hampshire, right? Awesome. How can I be expected to pay sales or income tax in any other state? And the answer is because the Supreme Court took away the bright line, and because states are engaging in what I believe are criminal mobster-like tactics, they can do whatever they want. It doesn't mean they're right. And it's only if we fight back through the Online Merchants Guild that we'll have that opportunity to push back. But states nationwide are pushing to try to get out-of-state people to pay money on their own basis. MJ says, at one time, Amazon would fight against any tax liabilities, including placing warehouses in low tax areas, supporting no internet national tax. Why did they change the position to helping states? It's a very good question, MJ. So for everybody's, again, context, just briefly, Amazon set up all of those, you know, Golden State LLC and all those little LLCs for their distribution centers so that they didn't have to collect taxes either. And they would only collect tax where they had a physical presence for Amazon.com Inc. So they were a Washington company. If they sold in California, they didn't collect taxes for years and years under the Quill versus North Dakota decision. And then they registered those distribution companies under different LLCs. And at some point, the states, I don't remember, but dozens of states were suing Amazon. And finally, Amazon backed it up a notch and said, you know what, this is a fight we can't win. We'll get compliant on our stuff, but we're not going to get compliant on marketplace stuff. That's not our problem. So they're kind of baby stepping their way towards doing the right thing, which is not good for us. They used to fight, and now they're not fighting. They're just rolling over. They're not helping sellers. They are hurting sellers in this case. Ivan asked, are FBA individual sellers, will they be affected somehow? Yes, if you sell and you use FBA, then California could beat you down for taxes. Everybody is affected. Another question, that's a fun name I can't pronounce. If we have sales tax registration, do we need to register income tax or until they send the letter and then you consult with an expert? So that's what we call dealer's choice. It's your call. If you're already registered for the state and you're waiting for the income shoe to drop, I would just personally, once I'm registered and declared Nexus, I would probably just make sure I get compliant and have my finance team understand my federal and state income taxes and have my finance team understand my registration and sales tax collection and remittance as well. Again, go to empowery.com/contact. They'll send you some of those referrals to some of those resources. Michael says, the figures on potential liability were huge. What if you simply don't have the money to pay? What would be the consequences? Good question, Michael. You won't be alone. A lot of people, if they're really forced to pay that, they'll go out of business. And so this is the point is, you know, is it better for you to spend a couple $1,000 with Online Merchants Guild right now or risk $200,000 of potential liability, $400,000, $1 million, whatever it is? And by the way, if you can spend more at Online Merchants Guild, why not? You know, the more helps the case. And believe it or not, everybody, I truly think we could have, even if let's just say best case scenario, they file this injunction in the next several weeks. This injunction stops the states from their crazy collection action. That could literally roll back some of the things that have been happening. That's the power of the federal government to tell the states to stop interfering with interstate sales. And there's a bunch of legal principles I haven't bothered to talk about with the Dormant Commerce Clause and, you know, interfering with interstate sales and so forth, but the federal government has the final say on this. So it is possible to have this whole thing disappear with a couple strokes of luck and with a proper filing with experts. So, Michael, my advice is, you know, if you don't have the money, then that company will go out of business. You never collected the tax to begin with. So, you know, could they continue chasing you? Possibly, but it's unlikely, especially if that company is defunct. They'll chase alive companies that are in the top of the funnel. And by the way, there's a hint in there pretty strong. I hope you picked it up about maybe that old company goes away and a new company comes to life. Okay, Mark says, I'm based in the UK, sold around 2 million in the US over the past 5 years. So in theory, it could be around 100%. It's closer to 7% probably, Mark, but fair enough, 100 grand. And by the way, plus penalties, interest, maybe closer to 200,000. How likely are they come to the UK to get money? They're not necessarily likely to go to the UK to get the money, but if they continue down this path, here's some of the types of things that states will do. They will figure out your company, they'll file against you in the United States, they'll get a default judgment, assuming that you don't show up to the case, and then they'll tell Amazon to give them all of the money for that company going forward. Like I forget the legal term, but it's possible they could do those types of things to basically tell Amazon, any money owed to them, you give it to us. The term is, what is it?
Garnished?
Yeah, you get a garnishment. There's maybe a different terminology for a company, but that idea could happen. And so I just want people to understand this. And by the way, they can go back up to 6 years. So let's be extra careful. Jaron, nice to see you. So he says, is it better to start collecting tax in more aggressive states such as California, Texas, Pennsylvania, etc.? Maybe. But I don't necessarily think that. And it's because I place a lot of faith in the idea that this injunction will work, or some of the subsequent cases, like literally the next case after the injunction, assuming that doesn't just solve the matter, would be to sue the state of California and sue them under the basis of their own laws, by the way. This is not stuff I'm making up. It's their own laws. But you may say to yourself, I don't have the stomach for this fight. Even if you contribute to the fight, even if you're part of the fight, maybe you just want to take some of the anxiety away, then go ahead, you can register. But I would register a new company, and I would do it with really good experts, like the ones that Empowery knows. They can get your financial house in order, they can get your tax in order, and again, I have no personal affiliations here. Okay, Gary asked, can sellers restrict their sales, like saying my stuff isn't available in California? No, not to my knowledge. I wish that would be a great way for Amazon to give us power, but because we lack the power, that's one of the factors that makes them the retailer. Massey asks, what do you think about companies that are registered outside the USA? Are they more or less visible to the US, to the states themselves? So it's a fair question. Again, it echoes some of the prior questions, but I would just say that if you're outside the US and you've been getting threatening notices or calls or collection type things from states, you should pay close attention to this. You will absolutely, everyone will face this at some point. Another reason why the Online Merchants Guild is useful to us. The states are just incrementally moving the ball down the field, to use any kind of football, whatever you like, whether it's real football or soccer, or if it's American football, they're moving the ball down the field and they want to score the goal on us, right? And we don't want that to happen. Richard says, been doing business 5 years, probably around 5 to 7 in US no sales tax. Your thoughts, basically Richard says, your thoughts are create a new company, register as a seller with Amazon and move the sales to the new company and kill the past company. That sounds pretty good to me. I would use legal counsel though, Richard, to set those things up right. It doesn't mean that the history just vanishes, but it's harder to prove that kind of stuff. It's harder to, there's something called successorship liability and this and that, but this is where if you take a sophisticated approach to it, then it's better to do that. So Andrea asks, is there a media plan for Online Merchants Guild interviews with small business owners from all the countries make excellent 6 o'clock news? I think it's a great idea, Andrea. Volunteers, I think, are welcome over there. Right now, it's just, Paul and a couple board members, not including me, by the way. I'm completely unaffiliated. I have no axe to grind here, or no dog in the hunt, whatever it is. But I do think if any of you want to record here's the impact this would have. Oh, that brings up a good point. Andrea, in one of my past slides here, bear with me. How professional is this? I forgot to mention that if you go to Empowery, I don't have it on here. The Empowery, it's on the list, awesomers.com/tax. Go to empowery.com/dearjohn and let us help share Amazon this nightmare story of why you're breaking up with them. And if you record videos, we can share the videos. You can keep them anonymous if you prefer, but believe me, it is the worst. Alexander, yes, it is a tax funnel. Christian says, I've read the states have no jurisdiction over out-of-state entities, so they have nexus requirement, but no power to enforce them unless you voluntarily register. So that used to be absolutely true. However, the Wayfair decision changed that nexus requirement and now may give them the opportunity if you exceed, and many states, I believe it's 29 states effective January 1st, 2019, are adopting the 200 sales or $100,000 threshold for direct-to-consumer sales. Now, again, this is separate from the marketplace sales. That's over here. If states adopt that, if you sell 200 items in South Dakota, you have to file taxes and all that nonsense with them. This is why the next lawsuit has to be with a state or states to make small businesses get an exemption. Simon, hey buddy, he asks, is there any indication that any state will be going after back taxes? Yes, there's full indication of that. Anybody who's farther along that sales tax funnel, after you register, you're going to start getting notices that will say, give us the past money. We are trying to find precedents or other case law that supports them not going backwards, because that was not the law of the land at the time, but it's a potential liability. Robert says, if I'm selling less than 100K a year, do I have to file state tax? I live in California. Well, first of all, where you live is not necessarily the only measure of where your taxes are due. The taxes are based on where your entity is located and where it has nexus. So an entity is different than an individual. Unless you pay yourself W-2 wages or other reasons that give you nexus, your entity is what you need to worry about. But the answer is probably yes. If you live in California, you probably should do state taxes if your company is also in California. But call an expert, talk to the experts. Again, we're giving you some resources here. Richard says, re-register only, new company for state sales taxes, ignore the Again, Richard, I think you're asking good questions. What I would prefer is that you call a world-class lawyer and ask them those questions. Make sure they're sales tax specialists, and give that. They give you advice that is something you can rely on. I think that I generally agree with you, but I don't want to be the decision maker for you. Chris, hey buddy. Chris says, we have a UK limited. If we get targeted, should we switch over to US LLC and then start paying? Maybe. For UK or any companies outside the United States, how you do it will probably vary in some ways based on your own personal situation. And this is why I can't just give you guys just like here's 5 steps, just go do these. It really does vary for everybody because of all these other parts of the slippery slope. But I think your instinct is probably good there, Chris, but I, again, would retain expert counsel. Let everybody out there listen. Let's not be penny wise, pound foolish, right? I know somebody I saw the other day, they're like, hey, I can just go do a trademark for directly myself for $400. And somebody else says, hey, I can go to the Secretary of State and register a company myself for $122, whatever it was. And I think that's penny wise, pound foolish. In every legal sense, having experts on your team can prevent unexpected problems, unintended consequences you never imagined. And in sales tax, it matters. In registering a company to prevent them piercing the corporate veil, as it's called, I think it's important. Trademarks and the like. So I definitely reiterate that point. I'm going to try to get all these. I see them still coming in, so I'm going to try to hurry up. Let me just check my time here. Woo, we're running long. Okay. Jessica asked, are there any cases of U.S. states having pursued international companies that are registered in a foreign country outside of the United States? I don't know all the case law, Jessica. I would definitely say if you're outside the U.S., you have a little more insulation. But again, it's not going to last forever. And what I think will happen is that, you will have a small incremental steps forward. If you have next question, if we have sales tax registration, do we need to register income tax? I feel like we've answered that. So I'm going to go past garnishment. Thank you, Rick, for my half an hour ago brain lapse. Brian, also a charging order. Yeah, garnishment or charging order. Those are the concepts that if you're selling on Amazon, you got a bunch of revenue coming in. And the state of California serves Amazon and goes, hey, just so you know, this company that we tried to get taxes from, they didn't give us our money, so we want it from you. That can encumber bank accounts. It can encumber revenue sources like Amazon, all kinds of things. Investment accounts, if you have it in the U.S., you have to be very careful of that. Melissa, thank you for posting some of those links. Tony says, by starting over, do you mean a new company and a new Seller Central account? Answer is yes. Technically, you could have the new company take over or buy the old Seller Central account, but that's a strategic question. Oh, somehow I got to the bottom. And you guys are welcome. Any final questions? Now your time to get it in. Jane, yeah, although we're recording it, it's not going to be publicly available. Sorry about that. Caroline, hopefully this is helpful. For LLC sales tax registration, do we need to register income tax? Yeah, so here's what I'll say. If you are already registered for sales tax, the state already deems you to have nexus. You probably will have to deal with income taxes as well. But I would consult with the experts to make your analysis. And that's both the back-end analysis for the past and the future. Jessica asked, when is the injunction? I know that they have been working on the injunction from Online Merchants Guild for some time, and I can't give you an exact date, but I would say in the next 2 to 6 weeks, there's a high probability of that injunction being filed. If all of you guys listen, will just help out, get on board. Again, I have no skin in the game. I have no affiliate or anything like that. I believe that we're lucky to have guys like Paul Raffleson working so hard for us for free. By the way, he worked free, I work free. The guys getting paid, the money goes to the Sales Tax Council, who are the guys fighting in the trenches. Not Paul, not me, not anybody else, except the sales tax guys fighting the case. Stephen asks, what about registration in your legal entity's home state? So yes, wherever you're registered in your home state, if there's sales tax, you definitely have nexus there under any basis, even the marketplace basis. You probably in your home state are almost certainly gonna have to do that. So, all right, so if that's the end of the questions, I hope this is useful to you guys. Honestly, I don't like bullies. I think the states are bullying you. I think the sales tax software guys are bullying you. I just hate bullies. I hate predators. And I wish you guys the very best. Don't forget the osmers.com/tax has more links to help you get educated. Don't be alone in this battle. There's help out there. You guys are all very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Chill. I like that. Aaron, that's the right attitude. Abigail, you're welcome. Robert, you too. Lee, Alexander, Elena, Karen, Chris, you're all very welcome. Again, I hope this is helpful. And, I appreciate you guys. And Andrea, yeah, there will be a potentially another run at this for my buddies over there in Austin. So thanks again, everybody. You know, I love entrepreneurs. I hope you guys have a wonderful quarter four, and the very best luck to each and every one of you. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals, congratulations on your success to date. Your creativity, strategic vision, problem solving, and discipline have allowed you to build your own e-commerce business. Wouldn't it be great if you had more time to focus on the things that truly drive the sales and growth of your company? Instead of getting lost in a dozen different services and countless spreadsheets, what if there was one system that connected to your Amazon account and automatically gave you the information that you needed to make great decisions and really impact your business? Parsimony ERP can do that. Parsimony is the business operating system for your marketplace business. With Parsimony, you get true double-entry bookkeeping, easy financial statements, full customer service tools, and item-by-item profitability, along with project and task management, and more features are being added all the time. Learn more at parsimony.com. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.
Awesomers.com